Picture this. It's 1621. You're on a tropical island in Indonesia. The air smells like nutmeg, the world's most valuable spice. But there's another smell. Burning flesh. Dutch soldiers are systematically executing every person on this island. 15,000 dead by sunset. Their crime? Growing nutmeg trees. Here's the terrifying part. This wasn't ordered by a king. This genocide was ordered by a corporation. A company with shareholders expecting quarterly returns. Meet the Dutch East India Company, the VOC, worth $8.28 trillion at its peak. That's more than Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon combined, times 3. And nobody talks about them. Today, you'll learn how one company invented modern capitalism, pioneered corporate colonialism, committed genocide for profit margins, then vanished from history while their business model became the foundation of our entire economic system. Because every time you check your stock portfolio, every time a company claims fiduciary duty, every time profit trumps people, you're living in the world the VOC built. 1602. The Netherlands is tiny, wet, and broke. But Dutch merchants see Portuguese ships returning from Asia with spices worth 400% profits per voyage. The problem? These voyages are risky. Ships sink. Crews die. So they invent something revolutionary, spreading risk through shareholding. On March 20, 1602, the Dutch government charters the VOC with powers no company ever had. Build military forts, maintain armies and navies, declare war on foreign nations, execute justice and issue death sentences, coin money, negotiate treaties. These are powers of a sovereign nation. Except this nation has shareholders and one goal: profit. The innovation that changed everything? The VOC issues permanent tradable shares. Not shares in a voyage, shares in the company itself. They've invented the modern stock market. Within months, thousands invest. The Amsterdam Stock Exchange becomes the world's first, and VOC shares are the first publicly traded security. Sounds democratic, right? People's capitalism. Except there's a problem. Once you have shareholders, you have one obligation above all. Maximize returns, not ethics. Not morality, returns. The VOC takes this seriously. In 17th century Europe, nutmeg was medicine, preservative, and status symbol. It supposedly cured plague and prevented illness. A single nutmeg could buy a cow. And nutmeg grew in exactly one place. The Banda Islands. 10 tiny Indonesian islands. The Bandanese had been trading nutmeg for centuries with multiple merchants. It was a functioning market economy. The VOC looked at this and asked, why compete when you can monopolize? Their strategy was simple. 1. Demand exclusive trading rights. 2. When locals refuse, use military force. 3. Eliminate resisting populations. 4. Import enslaved labor for plantations. 5. Control 100% of supply. 6. Charge whatever you want. This isn't capitalism. This is corporate feudalism with guns. 1621. Governor General Jan Petersen. Cohen arrives at the Banda Islands with 2,000 European soldiers and 1,000 Japanese mercenaries. The Bandanese population, 15,000 farmers and traders. Cohen's shareholders in Amsterdam are impatient. They want their monopoly, so Cohen solves it permanently. His forces go island by island. 44 village leaders are tortured and beheaded. Heads displayed on pikes. Men are killed immediately. Women and children are enslaved for plantation work. Those who resist are executed. Villages are burned. Food stores destroyed to create famine. Families deliberately separated. Bandanese language and culture suppressed. By 1623, the population drops from 15,000 to under 1,000. The survivors are scattered. The genocide is complete. The VOC divides the islands into plantations, grants them to Dutch colonists, and imports enslaved laborers from Java to work the groves Bandanese once tended as free people. Back in Amsterdam? Celebration. No scandal, no outrage, no investigation. Instead, increased dividends. Share prices rise, investors are thrilled. The company eliminated competition and secured monopoly pricing. European markets will pay whatever the VOC charges. This is the first time shareholder value explicitly justified genocide. Cohen writes to Amsterdam explaining his actions with pure economics, necessary to secure company interests and ensure profitable trade. The directors promote him. This births a concept that haunts capitalism for 400 years: fiduciary duty. The idea that corporate leaders must maximize shareholder returns above all else. Cohen isn't punished because he made money. The genocide is irrelevant to the balance sheet. The VOC's model became the blueprint corporations still follow. Don't compete in markets. Eliminate them. Force exclusive contracts. Replace uncooperative rulers. Exterminate resistant populations. Control everything. Own the plantations after seizing land. Own the transport ships. Own the warehouses. Own the trading posts. Control pricing at every level. Maintain 50,000 plus soldiers larger than most European armies. Use them to enforce contracts, punish violations, conquer territories, suppress labor resistance. All funded by shareholders, justified as protecting interests. Operate with government charter but outside oversight. Atrocities in Asia? That's company business? Market manipulation? That's good business. Perfect unaccountability. To maintain monopoly pricing on cloves, the VOC sends armed expeditions to destroy spice trees on islands they don't control. They burn forests of clove trees throughout the Moluccas, destroying resources just to limit supply and keep prices high. Economic warfare against nature itself. Everyone knows the Atlantic slave trade. The VOC's Asian slave trade is forgotten. They transport hundreds of thousands of enslaved people. Java to Banda Islands, India to Ceylon, Madagascar to Indonesia, Bali to South Africa's Cape. The VOC doesn't just traffic spices, they traffic humans on industrial scale. In VOC territories, farmers forced to sell only to VOC at fixed low prices. Growing certain crops without permission is illegal. Trading with other merchants punishable by death. Entire regions forced into cash crop monocultures. Java transforms from rice exporting region into coffee and sugar plantation where people starve because they reforced to grow cash crops instead of food. The VOC is also the first company whose shares can be manipulated. Merchant Isaac Lemaire disputes with VOC directors, so he invents short selling. Borrows shares, sells them, spreads negative rumors, hopes to buy back cheaper. VOC directors lobby to ban it successfully. 1610. World's first anti-short selling law. But the same directors banning short selling are manipulating markets themselves. Directors control information from Asia months before shareholders know. They buy before announcing good news, sell before announcing bad news, time dividends to manipulate prices, spread false rumors about competitors. The VOC maintains separate books for regions, making true profitability impossible to assess. Military spending classified as investments, seized goods reported as trade income. They're lying to shareholders, but there's no SEC, no standards, no audits. Directors audit themselves. Shareholders don't care. Dividends average 18% annually, sometimes hitting 40%. Those returns are built on monopoly, violence, and fraud. But shareholders only see numbers. By the 1700s, the VOC is Earth's most powerful corporation, but beneath success rot spreads. VOC employees are officially banned from private trading. But a Batavia official paid 100 guilders monthly by the company makes 10,000 through illegal side businesses. Everyone's corrupt. The VOC knows but can't stop it without losing all experienced personnel. Communication takes months between Amsterdam and Asia. By the time headquarters discovers problems, it's too late. Officials steal, abuse power, make unauthorized decisions, knowing they'll either die from disease or have enough money to bribe their way out. The VOC fights constant wars. Against kingdoms wanting independence. Against European competitors. Against pirates, against rebellions. These wars cost fortunes but generate no immediate profit. Classic empire trap. Military force needed to maintain empire eventually costs more than the empire produces. The British East India Company copies the VOC model but with better government support. By mid-1700s, the British outcompete the Dutch everywhere. The VOC tries fighting back but hemorrhages money in an arms race they can't win. Stage 1. 1720-1740s. Hidden debt. The VOC borrows to cover costs while maintaining optimistic statements and paying dividends with borrowed money. Stage 2, 1750-1760s. Asset stripping. Ships sold rather than replaced. Fortifications decay. Territories neglected. They're liquidating to maintain profitability appearance. Stage 3, 1770s. The Ponzi phase. Pay old debts with new loans. Pay dividends with borrowed money. Manipulate share prices. Lie in reports. Stage 4, 1780s-1790s. Collapse. The Fourth Anglo-Dutch War destroys their fleet. French Revolution destabilizes the Netherlands. In 1795, the charter expires. 1799. Official dissolution. Total debt? 134 million guilders, roughly $11 billion today. The company once worth $8 trillion dies owing billions. Shareholders who collected dividends for 2 centuries get nothing. The VOC generated incomprehensible wealth for 200 years. Where did it all go? Some to shareholders, creating generational wealth for Dutch families still rich today, though they don't discuss origins. Some stolen by corrupt officials, Indonesian palaces and European estates built with embezzled VOC money. Some spent on wars burned as ships, soldiers, ammunition. Some lost to mismanagement and fraud. But almost none went to people who generated it. Indonesian laborers, enslaved workers, farmers forced into cash crops, they got nothing. The VOC extracted value from colonized people and concentrated it in European hands. When the machine broke, colonized people had only scars. The VOC isn't a household name despite being history's most powerful corporation. This is deliberate amnesia. The Netherlands crafted an image as progressive and tolerant. Tulips, windmills, legal marijuana, not genocide and slavery. If we examined the VOC seriously, we'd ask uncomfortable questions about modern corporations that threaten the entire structure of corporate capitalism. Western history frames colonialism as government action. The VOC reveals corporations colonized the world just as much, maybe more. In 1954, lobbied the U.S. to orchestrate a Guatemalan coup protecting banana profits. Caught paying Colombian death squads to kill union organizers, bribing officials, exploiting workers, destroying ecosystems. Decades of environmental destruction in the Niger Delta. When Ogoni people protested, Shell collaborated with Nigerian military. 1995. Government executed Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 activists. Shell later paid settlements admitting involvement. Buys water rights in drought areas, bottles for profit while communities face shortages. California droughts? Extracting millions on expired permits. Pakistan? Plants where groundwater is depleted. Michigan? Pays $200 a year to extract water sold for billions. Facebook, Google extract data from Global South with minimal economic benefit. Caught experimenting on users without consent, manipulating foreign elections, selling surveillance to authoritarians, exploiting content moderators. The VOC extracted spices. Modern corporations extract resources, water, data. Different products, identical exploitation structure. Your 401k probably owns shares in companies extracting resources from the Global South, lobbying against climate action, fighting minimum wage, using tax havens, funding authoritarians. You're not evil, the system makes your financial security depend on this. Your smartphone? Minerals mined by enslaved Congolese children. Your clothes? Bangladesh sweatshops. Your chocolate? West African child slavery. Your gasoline? Indigenous land destruction. You're participating in supply chains the VOC designed. Both parties depend on corporate donations. Regulations written by industries they regulate. You can vote, but corporations bought the candidates. The VOC's real legacy isn't buildings or artifacts. It's the system, as the highest virtue profit maximization justifies anything. With rights but no conscience, mortality, or responsibility. Profit from crimes without personal risk. Operate where oversight is weakest. Wealth buys policy. Different mechanisms than 1600s. Same result. Power without accountability. VOC committed genocide and faced no consequences because it made money. Today, corporations poison rivers, addict populations, fund death squads, manipulate democracies, and face fines that are tax-deductible business expenses. We don't live in a world where good triumphs and evil fails. We live in a world where successful people write their own moral narratives. VOC invented this system. We're still living in it. If you made it this far, drop a nutmeg emoji, but remember what that spice cost. Subscribe to channel for more such videos. Because history doesn't repeat, but it sure as hell rhymes and the pattern is starting again.